Is your budget feeling super tight, but you still want some super cute decor? Well, stay tuned. Hi, my name is Leslie, and welcome to Happy Tuesday, where we do crafts and DIY and home decor and more. Today I have for you 5 stinking cute projects that I am super excited to share with you. They are a continuation of a project I started on Sunday. Now, if you missed that episode, I will have it linked in the comments below so that you can go check that out. But for now, we're gonna grab our favorite beverage and get to crafting. Here's a quick sneak peek into all of today's projects. I am just so thrilled for this episode today, and I am loving this little village. That will bring us to project number 1. This project was actually suggested on Sunday by Kelly, who said that it would be really cute to have a rocking chair right outside the front door. So here is your rocking chair, Kelly, and we're going to start with just some twigs, and I'm trying to kind of determine the dimension and kind of figure out how I want my chair to be built. So I'm going to start with a piece, I want to say it was probably about 1 inch, and that's going to be the top, and we'll have 2 of those, one for the top part of the back of the chair and another one for the next rung down. And then we're going to have 2 side pieces, and I'm guessing those were probably along the lines of 2.5 inches maybe. I mean, the whole chair probably is 3.5 inches tall, so maybe they're 3 inches. And then we are going to put on our little arms there. So we're going to stick those on, and those are about the same size as those 2 back pieces. And I'm just using hot glue for this. In hindsight, probably would have been better to use wood glue by Super Glue, the kind that I buy at the Dollar Tree, and then you wouldn't see it. And you'll notice when the reveal comes up for this project that you have lots of hot glue marks. Now we've got the arms done and the front legs on, and we are going to put on the back supports and where the seat is going to sit. And I just had little glue strings kind of hanging everywhere. But that piece is obviously going to be the same as those backs. So you could have cut 4 of those, maybe 5 for the arms, and then this is going to be for the seat. And you'll see I'm just taking some thinner pieces because I wanted the seat to be, I want to say it's 5 or 6 little pieces. I thought that would be a cute seat. And then I had to start looking for some, little pieces that were going to kind of rock on their bottoms. So they're going to be kind of rounded. Is that what I'm trying to say? I think it is. So you can see I've got my seat little pieces in there now. And then we are going to pull a couple of those little rounded pieces. And that should be pretty easy, one would think, with twigs because they're not necessarily flat. And pretty much everything we did had some kind of rounded something to it. But I'm just kind of messing through the twigs that I have sitting on my desk and trying to figure out which ones are going to be the best. So once I've gotten those all picked out, I'm going to get those glued on again with some hot glue onto the bottom of our chair. And then we are going to start on the little pillow. And I'm going to make a little pillow and a blanket to sit in my little rocking chair. So I have this fabric. I want to say I bought it at Dollar Tree maybe a couple of years ago. And I tried to find the smallest grouping of pumpkins that I could find because that chair isn't very big. And I want the pillow to kind of fit inside. And then I'm going to cut it down, kind of figuring out my pillow size. And then we are going to have a front and a back for this pillow. Just using some hot glue, I am going to glue the bottom and 2 of the sides, and then grab just a teeny little bit of my pillow stuffing. I don't buy the polyfill, I just buy cheap pillows from Walmart. They're like $3, and then use those for filling for the pillow. So we're just going to shove that down in there and a little bit more hot glue to close up that top. And then I will trim it down just a little bit more. The hot glue kind of took up a lot of space, which is good for trimming it down because then it's still intact. So I'm just going to trim it down so it fits in that seat really nicely. And then I had this orange, and I want to say it's kind of flannelly type fabric, and I am going to just pull some edges. I just cut a little rectangle, and I am adding kind of some fringe to it, and then we'll put some glue on there and add that to our chair and make sure that it stays in place. And I just love the way this rocking chair turned out. What do you guys think? And honestly, this cost almost nothing but the glue. I just wanted to pop in here real quick and say thank you. I appreciate that you are here spending time with me. Now, if you're not already a subscriber, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button and clicking the bell below so that you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. It helps my channel grow and it doesn't cost you anything. Give today's video a big old thumbs up, share it with your friends, and comment below. I also want to say to my loyal subscribers, I love you with all my heart. Now, let's get back to crafting. And that will bring us to project number 2. I love how this little mailbox turned out. We are first starting with one of those little wooden flower pots that you can get at the Dollar Tree. Usually they're only there during the springtime, so that's when I kind of stock up. And if you don't have this, you could use any tiny little plastic container. They have, tons of those in the little craft section in Dollar Tree. And then I just pulled some fall-ish florals and kind of stuck those in there, flower arranging on a miniature scale. So I do have to let you know here, I filmed this piece actually twice. I lost the film of this project and one other project. When I was releasing Sunday's video, I messed up. And so I am refilming this for you, and I'm not going to redo the whole thing. So you'll just kind of get a good idea of the basic pieces and then how I put it together. So we're going to start with these jumbo craft sticks that you can buy at the Dollar Tree, and that's going to be the base. That base for my mailbox was probably about 1.5 inches long. And then I just found some kind of thinner cardboard. This was on the back of a calendar, I think. And so we're going to cut a rectangle piece to go from side to side. Then I'm taking the rounded part of that craft stick, and we're going to make 2 of those. And that's going to be the back side and the front side of our mailbox. So less than 1 craft stick will make you this mailbox and a little bit of cardboard. Now, if you don't have cardboard, a thicker cardstock would work just as well too. And then we're going to use some hot glue and glue that cardboard down. Now, just like in our cabin, the cardboard is really just to be a vehicle to hold the twigs together. Again, if you didn't see building the little cabin that you saw on the sneak peek, then make sure you go check that out. And then I'm just using Elephant Gray chalk paint by Waverly to paint the entire exterior of my mailbox. And then we're going to come in with some twigs. Now, because this mailbox isn't very big, I went with kind of a thinner twig, and in this case, these have kind of a flat bark to them, so they're not really bumpy and whatnot like a lot of twigs can be. So when you're shopping in your outdoor store, make sure that you are paying attention to the kind of wood that you want and finding those pieces. This was more kind of like a newer tree, maybe. I don't know. It was something my husband had cut down in our front yard up by our fence. So it was just laying there, and it was the perfect opportunity to grab it. And then I added a little bit of gray paint onto the edges just to finish off my little mailbox. And now I'm going to grab a little bit thicker stick. This is a different kind of wood, and I am going to make the bottom of our mailbox. Now I am going to bring out that floral, and I'm going to show you where I pulled some of kind of the little willowy pieces and some little rocks, and one of those little pumpkin filler pumpkins, and I painted the pumpkin white and then added some little moss around the edge, and here it is all complete. Now on this plant flower pot, I did cut it down to be a little bit shorter. I didn't want it standing up so tall next to the mailbox, but I am loving the way this turned out. The rocks went around the mailbox and added in those little willows. And here is project number 3. This is probably one of the most detailed projects that we're going to make, and there are lots of little pieces to it. We're going to start with a birdhouse, and I'm just going to use my heat tool to kind of dismantle it. So it's really just made with like a hot glue, and I'm going to use the heat tool and my little craft knife there to kind of loosen everything up and take this apart. So we're just going to take the base off and the roof off, and of course that little perch where the bird sits. And once we've gotten all that off, then we will cut a door in the front of this where that little bird perch was. So I'm going to kind of draw it on first, and then I'm going to cut it out with the utility knife. And I decided to, kind of use that rounded look, same as I did on the cottage, cabin, whatever you want to call it. And I'm just going to use my utility knife and keep scoring it until I can get all the way through, and then pop this out. No worries if it doesn't come out perfect, because you're going to cover this entire thing and all the sides and the roof in twigs, and we're just going to cut the twigs to the size. Now when you get to the holes in the front where the door and the window are, then obviously you're going to cut your twigs so that they go around that. And if you want more information on how that goes, then be sure and check out that video from Sunday. It gives you a little bit more detail on putting the twigs around little openings. And then I decided that, the gray part, which I forgot to say earlier, I painted the entire thing gray, and that kind of gives a good cover up when, you're putting the sticks on in case they're not all flush. But we're going to trim it all out with some more twigs, covering up some of that gray on the edges and around the house. So anywhere that you want a little bit of cover up, then you can just trim it with some more twigs. Now I've got these basswood pieces, and I bought them on clearance at Michael's, but I have seen them also at Hobby Lobby. They're super tiny thin. If you don't have these, you could use the small craft sticks and just cut them in half. But sometimes, they're not easy to split. But what we are going to be making is a little crate, and it is tiny. If you can see, they're not much bigger than the front parts of my fingers. So, and we're going to cut some even smaller pieces. I know some of you ladies have arthritis, and this might not be the particular craft for you, but I love miniatures, and I love all the details of all the miniatures, and I wanted a crate to look just like those crates that you find at the farmer's market and whatnot. So I am building my own. Maybe you could find something in the miniature, or you do something a little bit different and make a kind of a box out of twigs. You could do that too. But I am putting my edges together and the front and the back together, and you can kind of just see how I'm constructing this. Once you've gotten the frame put together, then we're going to add some little pieces for the bottom, and so there's 4 pieces on the bottom and then 2 pieces on the side, on the long sides, and then another 2 pieces on the short sides. So kind of got a little bottom box put together, and now we're going to create the supports that go on the inside of your crate. If you've ever seen it, it's kind of like a little angle piece that goes on the inside of the crate. And so we're going to cut out 8 of these tiny little pieces to make those supports. And then even though I used hot glue to put the bottom of the box together, I am going to use wood glue and let these sit for these corner braces. And the reason for that is I did try to do it with hot glue, but when I put the hot glue onto the edges and then tried to stick it inside the box, it took up too much room and it wasn't going to allow my box to look right. So I took it apart and then created some more pieces, and we're just going to use a dab of that wood glue by super glue or whatever wood glue you guys like to use, and put them end to end. You can kind of see what I did there to make a corner. And we'll do that for all 4 of those sides. And then we're going to take some hot glue once those have dried and put on the bottom and stick our supports on the inside part of the corners of our boxes. Once we've got that done, then we are going to cut some pieces for the sides, and we're going to have 2 sides, 2 pieces on each side. So a total of 4 longer pieces and a total of 4 shorter pieces. And you can see my support wasn't probably as long as it needed to be, but I'm just going to put this right on the top edge so that it's still parallel to the piece that is below it. And we're going to do that on both sides. And then, like I said, on the outsides, we're going to go corner to corner on those shorter sides. I'm not sure if what I'm saying is making any sense. I hope you're getting it, but you can kind of see what I'm doing here. And when this box gets put together, I am just in love with it. I mean, it looks so much like a crate I have in my office. And I didn't show you, which I know you're going to be so disappointed that you don't have to watch me paint, but I did not show you that I painted it that elephant gray color chalk paint, and then kind of distressed it out a little bit with a little bit of sandstone, a little bit of, I think it was ivory, and, you know, kind of gave it a rustic-y, worn look. And then I'm going to grab some of the thinner twine. Here it is. I think I might have added a little bit of moss green too, you know, just to kind of give it that appearance. I guess I didn't add the handles on just yet, but I took some really tiny beads and painted them red, and then added little tiny twigs into the stems to make some apples. And then I have this little straw, so I added it into the bottom and then poured all my apples in on top, adding a little bit of glue to kind of keep them in place. Look how sweet that is. Here we go. I'm going to add some twine onto the outside edges to give my little crate some handles. And then I needed a bottom for this whole scene, and I had this autumn piece that I had pulled out of a frame. It came from Dollar Tree, and so I decided that was a nice thick piece. You could just use cardboard, you know, if you have a thicker cardboard piece, or maybe some, what is that? Not poster board, but the foam board. You could use foam board for this too. And then I'm taking the smaller craft sticks, and I am making a wood floor on this. And so we're just going to kind of alternate, you know, long and short pieces so that it looks like a wood floor. And I am trimming off with my handy dandy little cutters there from Harbor Freight. I'm cutting the pieces off, the ends off, the rounded ends off, and then cutting the pieces so that they look like a wood floor. And I'm not going to bore you with the whole thing, but once I've gotten it all done, then I'm going to take some of the antique wax or whatever stain you want to use, and I'm staining that floor, and then I'm going to add a little bit of gray color in there and kind of rub that around with my baby wipe just to give it that worn appearance. Now we're going to take 3 twigs, and this is just, they're really thin twigs, but this is just to give our little corn stalk some form. And I'm going to use the raffia to wrapping it around and around to the length, and then trimming all the edges so that it's clean looking. And we're going to add that to our twigs. And then once we get enough bundles around that so that it is full, then I am going to actually cut out part of the twig. I'll leave the inside piece, but anything that you can see, I'm going to cut out. That way it still holds its shape, and we're going to glue this onto our wooden floor. So you can see I'm going to kind of cut those out. But we're going to add some hot glue onto the bottom, and then the twigs that are still in there will hold it together. Now, as I said, since I had to recreate some of the pieces for that mailbox, this floral piece is actually the one I showed you in the beginning in that little pot. And then I'm taking one of those little straw base hay bales that you can buy at the Dollar Tree, and that package, I think they come in 8, and putting that down there, and then just taking some twigs and tying it up with a little piece of twine to make a little wood bundle. And Paige gave me the idea of using twine as trim for the openings of the house when she saw the reveal of the cabin on Sunday. So thank you, Paige, for that idea. Here it is in practice. So if you don't have other pieces to use for trim, twine works just as well, and I think it looks awesome. And I love the way this turned out. It is so beautiful and so detailed. And that will bring us to project number 4, and this is the other project that I lost the film for. And so I'm just going to talk you through this. I found a branch that still had some leaves on it and decided how long I wanted it to be. I used some more of those foam pumpkins that I painted from Dollar Tree, just whatever I had in my craft supplies. Then I took some of the tiny little leaves that were on that little branch and glued them onto the ground so it looked like, leaves blowing. And then I had a little miniature squirrel that I also added. Now this bench came in a package. Well, it came from Dollar General, and it was $1. So if you can find these, that's a great deal on a little bench. And then just like the pillow we made earlier, I made a little seat cushion out of some muslin fabric and some hot glue. I actually used my fabric hot glue for that, and some more of that pillow fiber. And I just made it to sit in the bottom of my bench, and then I made a muslin little pillow and another one of those little pillows out of that pumpkin fabric that I had from Dollar Tree. So I just added those on there and put it all onto one of the wood rounds that my husband cut me, and I love the way this looks. It is just so sweet, and just the tiny little details. Oh, I forgot I had some little tiny acorn pieces too that I found in my yard. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it seems like acorns and pecans in my yard this year are more plentiful than I've seen them in a very long time. And that brings us to project number 5. I decided our little scene needed a fire pit. And so to start with, Paige also gave me an idea of making pumpkins. If you don't have foam pumpkins, or you don't have air dry clay to make pumpkins, you can make a pumpkin out of some tin foil and some masking tape. Now, I didn't have masking tape, but I did have painter's tape, and so I'm going to use my painter's tape and put it all around my tin foil round there, and just kind of made it in the shape of a pumpkin. And then once I get the tape all around, I'm going to take my weeding tool and poke a hole in the center, and that's where I am going to place my little twig stem in there. And then I am going to paint this one. That is pumpkin chalk paint by Waverly, and I'm going to go ahead and give it a nice good coat of orange, and I think that is a sweet little pumpkin. And then I had these little scrap little pieces of greenery, and I am loving it. Thank you, Paige, for those 2 ideas. Now we're going to start with the fire pit. So I am going to use one of these little tea lights from Dollar Tree, and I had some stones that I bought in a package from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to put those on, and we're going to make a little fire pit. And at first I started out with just 1 layer of those stones, but I added in a second layer before the reveal that I didn't show you. I am going to paint the bottom of this gray, and I took another one of those circles. Those came in a 3-pack from Dollar Tree. I think you can find those at Dollar General too in that 3-pack. And we're going to kind of decorate up our fire pit. Now I had these smaller wood rounds, and I'm going to take some twigs and cut 3 of them, and we're going to make some little camp stools out of these smaller wood rounds. Now if you don't have the wood rounds, you can take a large twig and just cut you a little sliver, and that'll give you that wood round. Now I was trying to cut these with my little handy dandy cutter there from Harbor Freight, but it wasn't working. However, my miter shears worked perfectly. Then I decided that my fire in my fire pit needed to look more like fire and less white, so I put on gray, which honestly in hindsight should have been a lighter gray, because with the red and the orange and the white I added on there, it made it look really purpley, even though in person it doesn't look purple. It kind of looks like a fire. And then I just built some twigs around it to make it look like a fire, and I glued all those twig pieces together, but did not glue it down to the bottom so that I can turn that on and off. Then I have this roll of hemp. It's really fine. You could use twine if you didn't have any, but I wanted to make a little basket. And so I am just gluing it round and round and round. Glue the bottom in a circle until it's as big as you want, and then start gluing it up the sides. Then to add a handle, I just skipped glue in between and puffed it out just a little bit, as you saw there, and made a little handle. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side of the basket, so that you've got 2 little handles on the basket, and then we're going to just trim that off, and I cut it kind of at an angle so it looked flush. Then we're going to grab some little wire, and we are going to make some little hot dog skewers. And because I don't have a way of really gluing the wire together, and I've tried to solder it before and that didn't work out very well, so I'm just going to fold it over and make a little prong there at the end and just cut them real tiny. They're probably about 1.5 inches long. Then for my base, I went in with some of that elephant gray color on top of antique waxed, and then added in a little bit of sandstone to kind of give it a weathered look. And then we're going to start gluing our pieces in. Now I'm using wood glue to glue down my fire pit, and you can see this is still before I added that second layer of rocks onto it. And I'm going to give that a little bit of time to set in, and then we're going to use hot glue for all the rest of the pieces. And I started out gluing it kind of like in a, kind of organized fashion, but then it kind of looked disorganized, so I did take it apart before the reveal, and redid it. And we just grabbed some twigs and made a little bundle of wood there to put on near our fire pit, added that to it. And then our basket needs some little blankets for everybody sitting out by the fire pit, so we're going to make 2 more of those little blankets like we did earlier that went onto our rocking chair, and just kind of fold those up in a quarter and stick that into our basket. It's just the tiny details that make things look finished, and I love, love, love this. I am so obsessed with this little fire pit, and I am just loving how all the little details made it come together. And look at that cute little pumpkin. Thanks again, Paige. Great idea. And I love it when you guys share ideas with me, because, even though I have a lot of them, I don't have all of them. And sometimes, something so simple like using masking tape and aluminum foil to make a pumpkin, I didn't even think of. And here is a final look at my little village. I love this. I have a Christmas village that my mom gave me, and over the years she would always add pieces to it. Of course, she's not around anymore to add any more pieces. But, this year I just thought it would be kind of cool to have a fall village. But, those buildings are so expensive. So this whole village, honestly, if I had to purchase the pieces that I actually used, I mean, the whole thing's probably less than $5, honestly. I mean, it's just scraps of stuff that I had hanging around. There wasn't a single thing that I had to purchase for this. And if you don't have the hay bales, and I think I said this on Sunday, you know, you can use floral foam and cover it in some type of straw, or use something else. And I did put a tea light inside my little cabin there, the tiny cabin. I think I might go back in with some fairy lights. I'm not real keen on how that looks in there, but I love this. Now, if you guys decide you're going to make any part of this village, I would love for you to email it to me, Leslie Happy Tuesday DIY at gmail.com. I love to see your creations and would love to see your take on this village. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really did enjoy our time together. Now, since you stuck around with me till the very end, normally this is the time where I'll give you a hint on one of next week's projects, but honestly, I don't have any idea yet. If you have some suggestions, leave them for me in the comments below. But until then, make it a great day and Happy Tuesday!